Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam amma ba'd. Habibti fillah. A question was asked about someone who denies that daughters receive half the shares of the sons in cases of inheritance, and he also denies the prohibition of alcohol, and he uses his own understanding of the verses to do this. I remember learning that denying things in the deen known by durura is kufr. However, he does not deny the Quran but denies the scholar's understanding of it. He also mocks concepts like the Sirat or judge on the day of judgment, a bridge on the day of judgment, saying he doesn't believe these hadith are sahih. This is a man who prays and gives much charity. However, these are clear nawaqid, aren't they? I also ask because he has a very righteous wife who doesn't believe these things he believes. She is on the sunnah from what we can see. What is her situation being his legal wife in Islam and having these shubahat? Barakallahu fikum. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam amma ba'da. Habibti fillah. First and foremost, these are questions that have very serious implications, and these are questions for the ulama. That's number one. And in a Muslim country, these things would even not generally go to the scholars, but rather they would take these things to the courts. These things go to the Islamic courts of issues of making takfir. For example, this is Saudi Arabia. They don't go to one of our scholars and say, Sheikh, actually people ask questions like this to the scholars, but when it comes to making judgments on specific individuals, those issues refer back to the Islamic courts. That is the job of the judges to adjudicate and implement those Islamic rulings. So that's the difference. One of the differences between, so a judge, their ruling is binding, whereas a scholar's ruling is not binding in the same way. And so that's one of the things that distinguishes the judges for the scholars. So I want to make this a learning experience for us. That's why I'm talking about this, because this is not something I would even begin to, as a small student of knowledge, would even begin to make a hukum. But there are some things that are very important that we need to point out, as these kind of things, this kind of ideology is widespread. And it would depend upon the particular individual as far as the ta'wil. Do they have an acceptable ta'wil, meaning an acceptable misinterpretation of the nusus or not? And this would go again back to the scholars to look at the case of the particular individual. And this goes back to what we mentioned many times about the issue of takfir. The issue of takfir in general, and takfir is divided into two types: takfir al-mu'ayyan or takfir al-mutlaq, or takfir al-mutlaq or takfir al-mu'ayyan. Takfir al-mutlaq is the general takfir, and that is when a person has fallen into a nullifier of Islam, or a nullifier of the faith, something that takes him out of the fold of Islam, and that is takfir mutlaq. That's in general. So it means, for example, and it's a wasf, it's a description. So it means, for example, if we say whoever denies that alcohol is prohibited, then they are a disbeliever. So that is called takfir mutlaq. That's the general hukum of takfir. When it comes to a specific individual who has done that, then making a hukum on that individual is now takfir al-mu'ayyan. That is the specific takfir, meaning you're making a judgment about that individual, and that is reserved for the people of ilm, the scholars, and more importantly, the Islamic judges in most cases in Muslim countries. And for a lot of people like this, and I know, and I'm very familiar, and I have colleagues and others who have this same, they're infected with modernism and new interpretations, and some of them, they totally discard the sunnah almost entirely. It's just there for dressing, window dressing, so to speak, and as far as implementation. So they negate almost so many things from the deen. And often it is best to just leave those things when you have someone who is in that state, unless you have the ability to give them the bayan and the hujjah, and, give them dalil, and basically establish the proof for them with knowledge, with ilm wa hikmah and wisdom. So this is very important. So in the situation, as general advice, and I will take this question to one of the scholars, as general advice, that it's important to continue to try, for those who have knowledge, to try to present to this individual, with hujjah, with clear proofs that they can understand, and so that it's made clear for them. That's one thing, because before making takfir of someone anyway, and I'm not even encouraging this at all, but I'm just saying in general, as a part of takfir ma'ayin, one of the conditions is that the hukum, or the yuqim alayhi al-hujjah, that the evidence is presented to them, and that they they understand the evidence. It's understandable to them. So everyone has a chance, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that He does not punish a people until He sends a messenger. So meaning that there is evidence, that there's a message sent to everyone before they are punished, that you will not be held responsible for that which you had absolutely no knowledge of and you were not presented with evidence. And as you mentioned, that these are some sins, or these are some actions that the scholars mention as ma'lum min ad-din bi darura, that these are things and issues which are known to the religion of Islam by necessity. So it means that these things, are widespread. Everyone knows that alcohol is haram. So that's a very strange thing. So this person has some serious issues. And as recently, I believe it was one of the scholars I was just listening to, I believe it might have been Sheikh Salih bin Fawzan, and he was just mentioning that even if the person does not drink alcohol and does not partake in it, but they still believe that it's halal for them, that this is kufr, and they have disbelieved. So it's a very serious affair, and I would encourage the sister who's in a situation like this to also work with her husband if she believes different than that, because that's a very serious and problematic thing when you have a secular husband and you have a wife who's on the sunnah, or even vice versa, and the problems that it means for children and the problems it means just for your deen in general. So these are major masail which need to go to Ahl Ilm, and we ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.